copy, Dave.
Granbury.
Granbury.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of Franklin County IDA and EDC to order.
Maria?
Just note the time and take the roll call, please.
Hang on one sec. There we go.
Okay, Sherry Boye,
Here.
James Ellis,
Here.
Stephen Erman,
Here.
Madeline Flurry. Here. Archie McKee,
Here.
Daniel Mills,
Here.
Nate Manette.
Here.
Also present, Jeremy Evans, Maria Bourgeois, Paul Ellis, Trevor Buchanan, and Rachel Child.
Thank you, Maria. We have a second item that's to accept the agenda. I would like to reserve the executive session if needed at the discretion of the board on my call as chairman. All in favor of accepting that, please, proposal? Please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None? All right, thank you. Public comment? There being none, we'll move on to the approval of the previous minutes of August 9, 2023. You all received a copy of that in the mail. Any changes or corrections, additions or deletions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes, please. The minutes of August 9th, 2023.
So move, Archie.
Motion by Archie, second.
I'll second.
Second. Sounded like Madeline.
Madeline, yep.
It's Madeline. Yes.
Thank you. Second by Madeline, and any discussion? There being none, we will assume the motion has been moved. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of August 9, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Committee reports, governance.
I don't have anything to report at this time.
Audit and finance.
Nothing other than the muffins are delicious.
Rub it in, Archie. Agriculture Committee.
Nothing to report.
Economic Development.
Nothing to report this month.
Downtown Revitalization and Entrepreneurship.
Nothing to report.
Your meeting.
Oh, I'm meeting tomorrow at 10:30, I believe it is.
I'm sorry again.
The committee has their next meeting tomorrow at 10:30.
Very good.
Who's in that committee?
One item before we leave this, there was some discussion about what we are going to do in terms of the busy schedules that we all have in order to guarantee a quorum. I would suggest that the governance committee look at that maybe and come up with a suggestion as to what we might do to make sure that everybody gives us at least a week's notice to the week's notice. In other words, if you could tell us, let's say 10 days beforehand that you're going to be out or going to be present, that gives us a chance to make any changes we need to make in order to make sure that we have a quorum for meetings. So if governance committee would undertake that, we would be deeply appreciated.
Okie dokie. Add it to my list.
We have
I missed it.
Madeline said yes. She'll add that to the roaming list.
Thanks, Madeline. We know a good workhorse when we see one. Thank you. Treasurer's report.
Everybody should have received the financials. It's been a while since I sent them out, so I don't recall anything in particular that stuck out. As we come into the year end, there'll be some journal entries that'll need to be made to kind of wrap things up for year end. Other than that, I can't think of anything in particular, and then, financials.
I would like to comment on the format, which I think is great. So we appreciate the change and we appreciate the clarity that we now have by glancing down through the financial reports, the treasurer's report and financial reports for the month. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Next, CEO, excuse me. We have to adopt the treasurer's report. I have a motion to adopt the treasurer's report, please. Steve Irwin, second.
I'll second it.
Second, Nate Manette.
Yep.
Any discussion? There being none, we'll assume the motion's been moved. All those in favor of adopting the treasurer's report, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Very good. CEO report.
I only have one item to bring up, and it's reporting on what's happened, but also express appreciation to the board, because over the last month, we have had at least 3 committee meetings. We've had a downtown revitalization committee meeting, governance, and audit and finance. And there's been a lot of work done in those committees. And this was kind of what was envisioned when we tried to really start pushing things to the committees. And I find it's been, at least for me, really, really helpful. So I just want to say thank you all to you guys as board members for doing that, because it's extra time. You're all volunteers, but there is a lot of work. And as anticipated, doing a lot of the background work in a committee meeting helps everything move better and more quickly, and then we can report out and have action items that are ready to go on our agendas. So we're going to keep at it, but it really takes all of you and your willingness to participate outside of a regular meeting to make it happen. And just over this last month, it's been really, really valuable to us as staff.
Very good. Thank you, Jeremy. We now move on to old business, beginning with the 2024 budget update.
Okay, so I'm gonna get us started, but we wanted to spend probably, I mean, it's up to the board, but we've got the EDC to talk about separately. And we do have a couple items for board action in each agenda. So we don't want to spend 2 hours on it, but we can give it a few minutes. In front of you, you should have the first draft of the IDA budget, and it's separate. It's there. Yeah. This is it's just as so I'm going to frame this out, and then we can have a discussion. Number one, as a reminder, the budget's due to the authority's budget office by the end of October. So we had set out to have a budget calendar and have a few different opportunities for board members, either the full board or the audit and finance committee, to be able to take a look at the budget and weigh in on it. And our goal has been to get it done and ready long before the end of October. And we are on good track. So the audit and finance committee met this morning, or just before this meeting, to go over the budget. Some good questions were asked, but the only other thing I want to say before I forget is we're always looking to improve. Our budget process has improved every single year. This is the second one where we've had Paul on board, and we've been able to do better than last year as far as our time, our schedule, and involvement with the committee. So first, a shout out to Paul for helping us get to this point so far in the budget, and we're just going to keep at it. So as far as the IDA is a little bit simpler than the EDC, because a lot of our costs are fixed. Like, we have a good understanding of what those are. The EDC gets a little bit more complicated because we have all these grant expenditures and grant income coming and going. The IDA is a little bit simpler. A couple of big picture things to think about when it comes to the IDA budget. There are some decreases in several places across the budget that are proposed. There's a couple of reasons for that. One big one was we had budgeted for the engineering work that Albertine and Courier did out at the Bombay factory. That's completed, and so we don't have to budget for that next year. So that's a decrease that you will see. A lot of the other decreases you might see in the IDA budget are just where we've got a better handle on what our actual costs are year to year. And so we're able to just trim those down and know that we're going to be able to be on budget. So it's just more realistic when it comes to costs. We always come in at or below our budget, but this one actually goes down in some areas because we're able to be more accurate predicting what our expenses will be. Let's see if there's any other, I can't remember what the other highlights I wanted to mention about the IDA budget.
Can I ask a question on the IDA budget?
Yeah.
This is out of sequence. Just so, it's from my understanding, this may be naive on my part, but also for the public understanding. When we look at the 4110 line.
Yeah.
And the headings up on top, we're currently in the 2023 year.
Correct.
Next year, adopted, that's assuming we adopt the budget today.
Right. Well, in a month. Yes.
In a month.
Yeah.
But that's really,
That's-
proposed for adoption,
Yes.
the banner.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And then the question I have is the difference between current and proposed 2024 on the charges for services line. And just if you could just elaborate a bit on the $300,000 that we are currently getting in terms of services, charges for services. I'm assuming that's 10% payments and all on, or whatever that ends up being. I'm curious what those, what the specific items are that are built
Yes.
into 300,000. And then why, when we get to 24, we're proposing a doubling of that.
Good, perfect question, and
Okay.
that's a really good high level question. So
Thanks.
charges for services for the IDA are by and large the fees that we receive for pilot applications.
Okay.
So that's our chief source of revenue for the IDA.
Okay.
And I mean, there's minor things in there, but that's 99% of it. So when you look at the current year, we budgeted 179,000 for this year, but we're estimating we're going to be quite a bit above that because of projects that have come up that we didn't anticipate for the current year. And then for next year, 2024 budget, we've tried to estimate what we think we're going to see for projects that are already underway in some that are somewhere in the application process. And these things can have a big spread as far as how long it takes between when we receive an application and when it actually closes. So we're just making our best guess with it, but
Okay.
based on a couple of the projects in the pipeline, we've estimated the charges for services for next year at $645,000.
So those are charges, basically, we're looking at inducement resolutions,
Yes.
things like this we've done
Right.
for projects in the northern end, projects on the southern end,
Right.
we know of, and, okay,
Yeah.
great.
And so like one example is the Burke solar project that AES was the applicant for. At the beginning of the year, or last October, when we did our budget, that wasn't even on the horizon.
Okay.
Yet halfway through the year, that became a potential project. The board approved it last month, I think. We've not yet closed, but we think we'll close on that by the end of the year. But it was not anticipated when we did our budget a year ago.
Great,
So-
thank you.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's that's how the IDA makes money. That's how IDAs across the state make money, are those
That's
are
helpful.
those fees.
So in that line, 25, 26, 27, rather than proposed, they're almost projected. I mean, that's what we're expecting, but there's nothing firm on those basically,
Right,
other than
and
anticipation of the fees that would be coming in, because those carry over, year to year.
and we're thinking we may get some fees coming spread over a number of years.
Okay.
So that's where that number came from.
Okay.
So that's an actual number, the 25, 26, 27?
It's just an estimate, but it's a possibility that, remember Jericho Rise, for
Right.
those that were around for Jericho Rise,
Yeah.
those fees that were not all paid up front. There was a part of the agreement
They
was
spread
that they
out.
could spread out over several years.
Right.
Great.
We might see that again. We're comfortable enough that we might see that scenario play out this next year,
Right.
that we put that in for those projections.
Good.
And Steve, you were referring to this first page where it has these numbers these columns. Last year, just so everyone knows, since you brought it up, last year actual is really from our audit. It just mirrors the audit. Current year 2023 obviously is an estimate, our best guess that it will be for the whole year. Like you said, 2024 is what we're talking about now. And then these three proposed years, the next 3 years, these are all columns required by Authority's budget office. So all of these numbers we do have to generate and
So
include in the Authority's budget office submission.
those are their banners, their headings.
Yes.
When they say propose.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And
Well,
we
an
did that a
artful
few years
program,
ago.
But that's what they're required.
That's what they're requiring.
Got
So a few years ago, it's probably a little bit before you got on the board, maybe
Yeah.
2018 or so, we made this, we added this into the budget process so that you guys know exactly what we're submitting, and we can, our whole process is aligned around making sure we're generating the info that ABO needs for their
Great.
budget report.
Good.
So that's what this first one is. And then, as you know, all the detail is in the rest of the packet.
Great.
Good question.
Helpful. Thank you.
And with that, I think that's a really good segue into whether or not there's additional questions or discussion the board would like to have about the IDA budget. And when we get to the EDC meeting, we'll talk about EDC. And again, we're in good shape here. The Audit and Finance Committee's met. We're
That's great.
presenting this to you. We're not asking you to approve it today. So there's time. We can have whatever level of discussion you want, and then we'll present a final budget for approval at our October meeting.
However, couldn't they approve it if they didn't feel there was any other changes needed?
I wouldn't, because it's not on the agenda as a resolution. I'd want to
Oh,
have it.
right, sure.
You could do whatever you want, but I would want it.
Well, I think it's a good idea to let it, stay on the table for the period of time, till our
Yes.
next regular meeting. We know what we're proposing. We have an idea of what we did last year. I think it's very, very clear the way this is set out, so that if something happens or transpires in the meantime, God only, an act of God or whatever, that has to change this, we've got a month to examine it. So in our next meeting will be like October, mid-October
That
sometime.
was basically 3 weeks from now.
Yeah. So that'd be around the 15th or so of October.
Well, let it wiggle.
Yep.
So what observations or questions does anyone have?
The only observation I'd like to make, and that's coming from the Audit and Finance Committee, is to thank Paul for keeping us oriented and updated as to the budget process, where we're going and what's behind these numbers. It's very, very much appreciated, and we'd just be nodding our heads if Paul weren't helping us.
Thank you, Arch.
Very true.
Great, thank you. Other questions or other comments? So as I leave this, it's my understanding that we are going to let the proposed budget for next year sitting on the table until we come back to the October regular meeting to be approved. And Archie, if you receive any, or if you see anything that needs to be done between now and then, let Jeremy know, and we'll prepare what we need to do. But based on this is our proposal, and it looks like a good budget, and I don't think there'll be any questions, so. Good. All right. Anything else under old business? There being none, we'll move on to new business. We have a resolution 2023-14 to execute the contract for the Bombay Garage demolition. Could we have a motion to accept and put it on the floor, and discussion can follow?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Steve to adopt resolution 2023-14 to execute the contract for the Bombay Garage demolition. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Madeline.
Second by Madeline. All right, let's just, Jeremy, if you would, just give us a quick capsule.
So as you recall, we hired Albertine and Courier to help us come up with a plan and specifications for removing the small garage that's just underneath the water tower on the Bombay warehouse property. We put that out to bid. We received 2 bids. Both were higher than we felt recommending to the board. We talked to both of them. We talked to the engineer about how we might rework the scope of the proposal. And in summary, both responded favorably with much lower proposed costs, and a lot of what was in there were costs related to tree and shrub removal and replacement of the fence around the water tower. We're going to have our contractor that's already doing landscaping work complete that portion of the work and not replace the fence. The fence can just be repaired on 3 sides, and then we only need to add a fence on the 4th side, because right now the garage is acting as that 4th side. So when the garage is removed, he'll come in after and put in 1 section of fence, and the rest of it he's just gonna repair. So by figuring all that out, we were able to receive revised bids from both contractors, and we received a lower bid for $12,860 from Burke Excavation and Demolition. Both, in the eyes of Albertine and Courier, both bids were good. Both contractors are reputable, and so it really just came down to, there's no reason for us to not accept the lower of the 2 bids. And they have, I think, 60 days in which to undertake the work once the contract's approved. So if the board approves this resolution, we will execute the attached contract and get them started.
Very good.
Does that include dumping fees?
It does not, and that is, I asked the engineer if there was any estimate for how much debris there would be, and I can't remember what he said, but I'm trying to put together an estimate for what that will be, because it's cheaper for us we can get a municipal rate at the landfill. So if we pay the tipping fees ourselves, it'll save us money. So the contractor will haul the material to the landfill, but then we will be invoiced for it. So it's a good question, Archie, because we have this bid for $12,860, but there will be some additional costs, tipping fees, and then the fence repair work will be separate.
Very good. Good question, Arch. Thank you. Other questions?
With small projects like this, can you ask like the local garage to do it? They're always looking for work to do in the summertime. Or is that completely separate and you'd have to go to a contractor?
The town?
Town garage, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
All the stuff away, the debris.
we did not ask that. That's it. We could have. I mean, the demolition, we've treated this as if the material is going to be have asbestos containing materials. And
Okay.
so we just made that assumption and everything's been built around that. And so with that, we want to make sure the contractor was qualified to do all that. So I don't know if we could have separated the demolition with the hauling. But I missed that, looking at that. Perhaps that could have worked.
It might not have either, just asking.
Yeah,
So the quote does include the hauling.
correct. Yeah.
Anything further? If not, we'll assume the question's been called to approve resolution 2023-14 to execute the contract for the Bombay garage demolition. Maria, would you proceed with a roll call vote, please?
Sure. For 2023-14, Sherry Boye,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Erman,
Yes.
Madeline Fleury,
Yes.
Archie McKee,
Yes.
Daniel Mills,
Yes.
Nate Manette.
Yes.
Resolution is duly adopted.
Thanks, Maria. Anything else under new business, anything to come before the board in that area? If not, we'll move on to the executive session. I will assume that we are going to go into executive session, and I'll ask for a motion to do so based on the verbiage that Jeremy is going to provide.
So this is related to the land that we own in Tupper Lake Business Park. And so the purpose of the proposed executive session is the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property.
Therefore, motion to go into executive session. Motion?
Archie,
Second by Steve. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So Trevor, I think this will be about 10 minutes. And so you can stay on because I'll just send everybody else into a waiting room or so a breakout room. And you can just hang out right where you are and then we'll be back.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you, man.
Yep. All right, let's see.
Present.
So I'm gonna take all of them,
Beautiful.
Thank you. or is it moderate test use?
I think it's moderate, but
moderate?
it's a good point. Back part does not include, that's, I mean, I'm not sure that's part of the permit, right?
I can't remember, Steve.
Everybody's back.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, Trevor. We're back.
We're now back into regular session. And I would accept a motion to adjust the agenda for the purposes of approving or not approving a motion, approving a resolution, excuse me. So could I have a motion to adjust the agenda? To adjust the agenda.
Dan,
Dan,
Second,
second, Sherry,
Okay, who made the motion, Paul?
Dan,
Dan,
Oh, Dan. Thanks, Dan. Second, Sherry. All in favor of adjusting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, nay? If not, now we will accept a motion to place resolution number 2023-15 on the adjusted agenda. Motion by Steve,
I'll make that motion as chair of the Economic Development Committee.
second. Second. I'm
Good.
having a hard seeing here.
Hey.
Sorry.
Nate,
Nate, got it. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on resolution 2023-15, which gives us purchase contract for the Tupper Lake Business Park property to approve? You got a motion to put that on the floor? And,
Yeah, you've got the motion.
yeah, we've got the motion on the floor, and now I'll ask Maria to do the roll call, please.
Okay, for 2023-15, Sherry Boye,
yes.
James Ellis,
Yes?
Stephen Erman,
Yes,
Madeline Fleury. Yes. Archie McKee,
I'm gonna pull a Brian Langdon, who I sit on the village board with, and say yes with reservations.
Daniel Mills,
yes.
Nate Manette.
Yes.
Resolution duly adopted.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Next is public comment. Any public comment? Trevor, anything you need on this part of the meeting? Okay, anyone else? If not, we will accept the motion to adjourn the IDA portion of our meeting. Can I have a motion to that effect, please, to adjourn the IDA meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Archie,
Okay, who was the, moved the motion?
Nate,
Nate, okay, Nate made the motion, second by Archie. There be no further discussion, please signify by saying aye, that we can adjourn it.
too much.
Therefore, our next meeting, what's the next meeting date?
October 11th.
Our next meeting date will be 11 October,
I will get left.
and at that point,
Not be here.
we have a budget. Just want to let you know, you'll have the budget to approve on that meeting at October 11th.
Okay.
I won't be here.